groups that have been demanding the expansion of the Electoral Registration Center is the National Democratic Congress. The party demands that the expansion be done, and it even says that there's deliberate disenfranchisement of voters in its strongholds. Clement Apaak is a member of parliament representing the people of Bulsa South. He is a member of the National Democratic Congress. You're welcome to Eyewitness News, sir.
Thank you, Umaru, and I greet your listeners, including those in my constituency of Bulsa South.
Over the weekend, lots of stories emerged and screenshots of an interview Jean Mensa granted Citi FM in 2016, in which interview she made a call for the expansion of the registration exercise, which was then happening. The Electoral Commission was carrying that out. She was then heading the Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA. Those screenshots have gotten to her, and when she sat before the media today to answer questions, she had to respond to it. And she says that what was happening then was a registration in an election year, 2016. This particular year, 2023, is not an election year, and there's a whole program ahead where they'll be doing a mop-up exercise plus continuous registration for a period of 6 months. She says because of this, it cannot be said that they are limiting the limited registration and also disenfranchising people. You have been making that call. Are you convinced now?
Very well, Sander. I just had the opportunity to hear some of the comments on your network, keeping in mind that I am in whole with my colleagues on the Public Accounts Committee, so we didn't have the privilege of listening to her throughout. But I've heard her very measly and lame attempt to justify conduct that many of us and many independent thinkers, not just the NDC, not just the political parties which in collaboration with the NDC went to court, or the private citizen who has gone to court, but independent observers, including civil society organizations which have a history of monitoring and commenting on electoral processes, have all said that the current approach, the program that she has put in place, clearly is working against the mandate of the institution that she today heads. So her attempt to try and justify what she said a few years ago, which many of us believe to hold even today, on the basis that the dynamics are different, it clearly would not wash. I say this because the right to vote, Article 42, and anyone who has had the chance to read it, is very clear, is very specific. The third article, which is an entrenched clause, does not only speak about the citizen being 18 years or above and of sound mind having the right to register to participate in public elections and referenda, but talks about entitlement. And when you speak about an entitlement, what that means is that the person who is supposed to be the beneficiary of this right should not be encumbered, or no obstacle should be placed in the way between that person and accessing that right. So it is not for Jean Mensa to decide whether this is an election year or not, and whether the about 1.3 million voters, only about half of them, or 700,000, will be able to register or are willing to register this time to vote or not. Her responsibility as the head of the commission, the singular role of the Electoral Commission, is to make sure that every single citizen who meets the minimum threshold or requirement is able to register at his or her convenience in a way that would not discourage him or her from registering to take advantage of this fundamental right. And what are we seeing? If you take my constituency of Bulsa South, for example, you have constituency communities as distant as Bachonsa, which is about 35 kilometers to Fumbisi. We are mobilizing the people, which shouldn't even be our responsibility as political parties and as MPs, because the right to vote is not confined to or coterminous with belonging to a political party and expecting representatives of that party, be they MPs or not, to mobilize and organize and finance the prospective beneficiary of a fundamental right to access that right. But even so, given the current conditions, we are doing that. So we mobilize, we arrange, and we carry prospective voters all the way 35 kilometers with their guarantors in a terrible situation where the roads are not motorable. In the farming season, when these people have to be on their farms to get to Fumbisi, and when we get there, the system is down, the numbers are too many because there's only one machine, and the people are not able to register to vote. You then have to either accommodate them with their guarantors, or they have to go home. All of these are impediments. So Jean Mensa cannot tell, it is not in her place to tell we the people, we the electorate, we Ghanaians, when and how we should participate in a right that is bestowed on us by the Constitution. Her role is to make sure that people who meet the minimum requirement to register have that access, period. She doesn't determine when we should do it, whether it is an election year or not. And that is the case that we will continue to make.
What you have done could be akin to the account saying that the party is being brought to your home and you're running to meet it midway. If there's going to be an expansion, that would be nationwide. And she recalls that in 2020, there were registration centers in all 33,000 polling stations. Why don't you simply let these people wait for the registration to get to their homes and let those who have the means go to Fumbisi to go do the registration, while those who cannot would wait for next year when the expansion is done?
But you see, Umaru, this is where I have a fundamental disagreement, because it is not for her to determine that. It's Jean Mensa telling us that the upcoming district assembly election is not of national value. It is not important. All those who are eligible to register to vote, and by her own figures, some 1.3 million thereabout, are not deserving. So why is she putting impediments in their way by an arrangement that is centralizing the process, thereby denying many the opportunity to register to vote? I would argue that the district level elections are a very important national exercise. And so to think that she would even try to draw a dichotomy between a national election and what we are going to do later this year to elect our assemblymen and women, in itself defeats the very understanding of the role of the commission. The commission is not to determine when, how many people should register. The commission's primary role is to put in place a plan, a program, and a process that would make it easy. And that is why it is an entitlement. If Jean Mensa has overlooked the importance of a right and has sought to belittle that right by seeking to give all of these wobbly explanations, rather than do the needful, as many Ghanaians and almost every stakeholder besides the commission is calling for, she should look at the definition of entitlement. Entitlement. And that is why the framers of the Constitution didn't just confine it to a right, but they say it is an entitlement. And so she should make it possible for us to exercise that right and to benefit from that entitlement. That is a role, period. If it is the case that she doesn't have the resources, she should let us know. But as far as I know as a member of parliament, she has the requisite resources to devolve the process to the electoral area level so that those who qualify and meet the minimum threshold to register to vote are able to do so in dignity and not in the inhumane way that we are seeing being done.
She makes the point that the resources allocated to her office are not resources for an expanded registration exercise, but it is to cover a process such as the continuous registration and the limited registration as currently pertains. You can't blame her, can you, when she doesn't have the resources?
Well, she hasn't said she doesn't have the resources. And as far as we know, as a member of parliament, there is no time that Jean Mensa has come to parliament to seek approval or to make a case for resources whereupon she has been denied. And so I don't buy that argument. From the onset, when she chose to ignore the wise counsel from the Apaak, whereupon those who attended the meeting had told her that this current arrangement that she was looking at unfolding was not going to be the best. And she had promised, at least the commission, she held the commission, so if I say she, understand that. The promise was made that the issue will be looked at and that Apaak will be engaged. That didn't happen. And she's gone on to unfold what was clearly rejected. She didn't say at the time and up until today that there was a problem with resources. And so you cannot, after the fact, when you are now being told that what you were going to do, the challenges that were anticipated are glaringly clear in front of all of us, you then try to go back and try to parry forward some excuse around a lack of resources. We don't buy that, and that cannot be the case. She should do the right thing. It is not too late to say that, look, given what we are seeing, given the challenges thereof, and given the chaos that we are seeing, even at some centers, it is time that we go to the electoral areas. I think that is what Ghanaians expected of her, not this lame attempt to try and justify the unlawful and illegal process that she is using to clearly disenfranchise many Ghanaians whom we believe are going to be from our strongholds.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. That's the Honorable Dr. Clement Apaak. He's Member of Parliament for Bulsa South. Let's go